Hello, welcome to another Tweedy Outdoors video. I'm in this rather splendid location by the White Cliffs of Dover and or Folkestone, somewhere in between. I'm going to be cooking a risotto, completely incongruous with the location. I don't really ever try and come up with a sort of meaningful food for the place where I'm in. Occasionally I've done that. This is carnaroli rather than the usual arborio. I've done some of the prep work at home, so I've chopped up some onions at home, chopped up some courgettes. This may seem a bit excessive, but I just had this left over. I did a tasting of champagne versus English sparkling over on English Sparkling with Tweedy. Is that going to be in that corner? I had a glass of each, and then later on that day I finished off the English sparkling. I just didn't really feel like this, to be honest, so it sat in my fridge for 2 days. Will have gone a bit flat by now. It won't be very nice to drink, and I've now carried it around in a bag for 3 hours, so it will also be lukewarm. So at this point in time, I know this seems extravagant, but this really is the best thing for it, is to go in the risotto. Bit of oil can go in the pan. As always, try and get the most gentle, delicate burn we can on this. I really don't feel like the windshield is achieving very much. Oh well. I decided it probably would be more sensible on the ground, bit more shelter from the wind down here. First of all, give those a gentle saute. Definitely don't want them to go brown, just want a little bit of, what do you call it, blonding. Perhaps I can give you a behind the scenes shot using my phone. I'm going to call those vaguely blonde now. All right, so those courgettes can go in now. More than anything else, what I want to happen with these courgettes is for them to reduce in size a bit. Some sort of pretend chicken. I somehow thought Mediterranean, that sounds like the sort of thing you might put in a risotto. I hope it's not going to be one of those ones that ends up disintegrating while cooking. Like a drone shot on the cooking pan, it's so high up. That will also sort of season the whole thing. I'm sure this stuff is packed full of salt. And it's got some herbs and stuff on it. Is it time for some of the carnaroli? I believe it is customary to actually let this fry a little bit. I didn't bring a measuring cup. That would probably have been helpful, but I don't know. What do you reckon, about that much? Maybe a tiny bit. I know it expands massively, doesn't it? But that's probably enough. So it's at this juncture that the Tattinger comes into play. I don't know if any of you ever use these stoppers. They can be really violent when you come to take them off again, especially if it's been sitting around for a while, opening and closing the fridge door, and it's been shaken about in my bag. So definitely don't want that pointing at your face. This is all feeling wonderfully Floydy. I don't know if you can see, but that is starting to stick a little bit on the bottom. So that is the perfect time to deglaze with this Tattinger, very extravagant, like I say. Shall I try a swig to see whether it is really undrinkable or not? More fizz than I expected. That is surprisingly drinkable. The temperature is not terrible. It's a little bit warmer than I ideally like it, but peachy almondy. If anything, I think that might have improved for spending 2 days in my fridge. Wow, who'd have thunk it? Perhaps that could be my aperitif then. While the risotto is cooking, I can have a glass and a half or whatever's left of Tattinger, and then on to the Gevrey Chambertin. The champagne there has deglazed the pan. There shouldn't really be any burnt bits stuck to the bottom. Really, you're supposed to have a stock pot. I believe this is the way I was taught. You're supposed to have a stock pot on another hob ring that is being kept warm. Just a bit too lazy today to bring a separate pan, so I'm just going to use cold water. Of course, in this temperature, it's not going to be cold. I will add a bit of stock bouillon in as well, but any Michelin star chefs watching can click away now in disgust. I will understand, but it will work. It will still cook this rice, I assure you. Bit of the old stock bouillon. That's looking a bit sad, isn't it? I'm sure it'll be fine. So it's a Mediterranean risotto, I would say. It's got that Mediterranean chicken, if you believe that. A sort of tomato-y stock. I mean, you'd probably use a more neutral stock traditionally. Is it time for another quick slurp? I'm feeling so Floydy. This is fantastic. I should raise a glass to France. You know, we have our differences. But I do like your wine. I mean, not always the champagne, to be honest. I prefer the English sparkling, but I definitely like your Gevrey Chambertin, which I will get onto once I've dispensed with the first course of booze. Isn't this spectacular? Look, White Cliffs of Dover. Champagne, risotto on the go, Gevrey Chambertin to come. Life is good. I am seeing a bit of bubbling inside now. Nice vigorous bubble on that now. can see how the liquid's going all kind of gloopy as well, which means some of the starch from the rice is being given out. Is that it's thickening a bit? I think I will give that a bit more liquid. Make sure that's all covered up. That might actually be enough now. I don't think I'll need a lot more than that. I don't know if you can see from all the way over there. I think that is looking pretty good now. Shall I give you a close-up? I hope you will agree that is looking a bit like a risotto. I should probably taste a little bit now just to check that that rice is indeed cooked. Yep, that is pretty good. Soft on the outside, tiny bit al dente on the inside. That's where it's supposed to be. The final touch is to add in some grated parmesan. This isn't technically real parmesan, but I won't bore you with the details. It is a very parmesan-like cheese. That gives it its final sort of creamy richness. And that to me is looking pretty good, I think. How does that look, apart from the wonky horizon? Can you see the pans wobbling? White Cliffs of Dover, Mediterranean summer risotto, whatever we're calling this. Gevrey Chambertin, which is delicious. Go to Burgundy with Tweedy for the tasting notes. Shall we give this a taste? Oh, that is nice. It is really comforting, really creamy, rich, but also summery somehow at the same time. And that pretend chicken you're not interested in hasn't disintegrated. It has a good texture to it, actually. It's nice. I actually brought along a little jar of pepper so I could give that a sprinkle of mixed peppercorns ground at home. I might as well throw the whole lot in. Oh, that was the icing on the cake, so to speak. Very happy with that. I've achieved that. There's no way of showing you sort of visually that al dente effect with the rice. Soft on the outside, still a little bit firm in the middle. That's how it's supposed to be for risotto. And I think the fact that it has that tomato-y stock cube rather than a more neutral, plainer, paler coloured one means that it actually goes a bit better with the wine, the Gevrey Chambertin. The food is a little bit more gutsy. The wine is fantastic, lovely, intense and concentrated, doing everything I want. That has worked out remarkably well. I'm very, very pleased. What I think the champagne adds here, it doesn't really have to be champagne, but there is a sort of sweet and sour quality to this. Champagne's pretty good on acidity, so any reasonably acidic white wine would do the same thing. But by the time that wine had sat around for a bit, it actually ended up tasting slightly sweet, which was interesting. And I think that slight sweetness, you also get a bit of sweetness from the Parmesan type cheese. That sweetness has added something really interesting to this big mixed bag of flavours here. I have eaten a lot of risottos in my time, but this is quite possibly one of the best. All finished. Hashtag leave no trace. Those boulders were here when I got here. I promise I didn't bring them with me. Haven't left any litter, and I haven't burnt this largely concrete or whatever this is beach down. That's been delightful. I know this looks just like a concrete mass, but being by the sea, being beneath the chalky white cliffs, and apart from just a couple of passers-by earlier, I've had the whole place to myself. It's been really, really delightful. I've enjoyed that very, very much. I think the meal was a success. The wine was fantastic. Even that 2-day-old champagne was great.